Man, look at that moon. And I know this always gets talked about, like the end times and all that stuff. You know, people be like, well, we heard about the end times 10 years ago and all that shit. Y'all don't understand though, the ages are like 2,000 to 2,500 years. When they talking about the end of a cycle, that's like the last couple hundred years right there. And now they're talking about the earth speeding up, and not just talking about it. I actually feel like the days is going by faster now and everything like that. You know, it just feels like the days are going by quicker. And I always talk about this planet cleansing, you know, because if you haven't noticed by now, it's a lot of wickedness that the planet can't sustain all the low vibrational energy and well, lack of energy harvest. It can't sustain all the pollution without, you know, freaking out and cleansing. So it's getting to that time where it's about to go into a crazy cleanse. And you see Texas, what they just got hit with.
We do have vampires around us. Crucial 13, that's what's up. Shout out to you.
I feel like every time Crucial ever talked, it was making mad sense.
Get Crucial.
I'm hungry. I need some bacon.
Look at this. Look at it. This is the city I'm in right now. And I know it's a lot of insensitive people blaming their politics and all that type of stuff, blaming Donald Trump. I heard Donald Trump getting blamed for it. No, man, it's the earth is getting ready to do its thing. It's getting ready to cleanse. It has to wash away all this toxic energy, all this toxic death force that's hit the planet, you know? Look at that moon shining off the river right there. Can't really see too good, but you know, this is pretty cool. Yeah, man. The earth is getting ready to do her thing, man, and you know, just all the negative energy, man. It's even if you think you're doing good, you gotta check yourself. You gotta make sure you're not harboring any of this energy, or you have to go with it. You know, that's the number one thing I always think about. You know, do I still got any of that energy? And this is how I check myself. I would get like bad comments, you know. I got this thing where I feel like I got to respond to people's comments and all this, and I'm pretty mean when it comes to people that are under a spell and stuff like that. They're so ignorant, and it angers me, you know. And that right there is a sign that I still got some bad energy in me. Even though I feel like I'm in the right, these people are under a spell and it angers me. It doesn't matter, man. It's all about checking that shit. It's all about having a spirit in you that doesn't even want to see that don't even engage with that. Because once you engage with that force, you get pulled back into it. You know, it's that spirit right there that's really in you too. You think it's you just fighting off demons and shit, but it's really, that thing is in you too. That's why it has the need to fight. That spirit, that death force is a self-consuming spirit. So fighting is their nature. People don't get that. That is, you know, very deep right there. Fighting is their nature. So if somebody could hit you and then now you all of a sudden got to kill them, their family, and make sure they understand, don't mess with you again, you got that death force spirit, you know? And people be like, well, you got to defend yourself. Well, yeah, I understand that. Most of the time, though, when you vibrating high, you ain't attracting that, though. If you understand the laws of resonance and attraction and all that shit, you don't attract that when you're at the right vibration. You start, that stuff starts dissipating out of your life. And I know, because I've been up and down with this. I know what happens in my life when I'm fully focused on just being narrow path minded and all that. I don't see none of this shit. But whenever I feel like, all right, let me go see what's happening in toxic land, then I get pulled back into it. Now I gotta defend myself and all this type of shit. It's just that spirit. You gotta be completely objective and real with yourself to be saying the shit I'm saying right now. I don't expect people to be at that level. It's very few of us that can achieve that type of objectivity. To where you just call things how you see it. You don't paint the world as you are. You don't, meaning like if I'm vibrating a certain way, I gotta justify my vibration. You don't paint the world. Right as I said that, some type of mosquito came in my face. All right, you don't justify your own behavior. And the reason why you shouldn't do that is because negative behavior is an attribute of these demons, of these energy vampires, and once you justify it, you're putting them on a higher vibration, and they're not allowed at a high vibration. They're not allowed up there. They not allowed to get the soul. They're not allowed to be up there because they'll do harm. They're a death force. They're not allowed up in the frequency. Even the religious people, God in the Bible would say that you can't put the devil on a pedestal because the devil is constantly trying to get God's energy, the life force on this planet. So once you put him up, you're feeding the devil's soul. So once you justify things, you're feeding your good soul to the devil. You're lifting him up into the frequency. And people know what I'm saying when I say lifting them up. If you understand, if you got the frequency chart in your head, you know what I'm saying. Lifting them up from that bottom frequency all the way to the top. Which is what they do, which is why they put shameful things is the righteous thing now. It's righteous to be sympathetic toward low vibrational behavior. That's how this leftism and all this shit works in society. They're going to be wiped away on this planet for doing that. That's the number one thing you don't do. You have to choose a master. Once you start blending them and blurring the lines, that's when the planet gets upset. That's when God gets upset. You can't blur the line because once the devil start being able to call himself God and do all that type of stuff, the power is in the wrong hands. That's what I say. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, because it is absolute power, meaning that it could benefit good or bad. So once that power gets into the wrong hands, you're gonna do a lot of damage. You're gonna take a lot of souls down. You gotta really stop justifying your wickedness. And this is just for the people that's at the level of where, they believe in the Most High. They believe that these are the end times. This is the last thing to do, is to stop justifying yourself, because we're so righteous minded that we don't want to be wrong, and that's the last thing that the devil can hang on to you, is use your striving for righteousness against you and say, ooh, see, that was wrong. I know you feel wrong about that, but don't let them tell you wrong, or else they're never gonna believe you're righteous. So you gotta feel like, oh, I gotta justify this. Nah, don't do that. I'm telling you, because you think the devil's gonna get you. No, God. When this planet starts going crazy, that ain't the devil. That's God. And people be like, well, why would God do such a thing? Because you harboring demons. That's why I stopped believing, like, a lot of people think, well, God is cruel because he kills people. No, God don't kill nobody. You're infested by demons that God kills. So if you got demons in your body, yes, God is going to be cruel, or the universe is not going to, be kind to that. The universe is sent. This is a high vibrational environment. Well, in its natural state, it's going to be cruel to that energy. And a lot of people be like, well, I got good intentions. It don't matter. It's the reason why the devil wants you to feel like you're justified, so that you don't feel like you're doing any wrong, because your soul does strive to be right. Again, so they use that against you. you know, for a reason. So ignorance is no excuse. It works like that in the law, and it works like that with God. Just because you were tricked into doing something can't exempt you from that consequence from it. You know, if I'm tricked right now into going to rob somebody, I think I'm doing the right thing. Somebody told me, hey, that person over there is racist. They doing this. They got kids in the basement. They doing this. Let's go burn their house down. And you go do it. But then when you get there, you get shot up because the person was lied on. Actually, you still got to die. You can't just be like, what they told me. No, it don't matter. You got misled. That's why the devil is the father of lies, the deception. That's their biggest thing. No human being is going around here just claiming to be evil. You gotta remember that. So that goes with you looking at yourself and saying, yeah, I'm not evil, but I also can't justify my wrongs. I can't, you know, I can't lift the devil up to where I'm going. You can't get into them higher realms taking them lies with you, taking that justification with you, that deception with you. You have to get up there clean, the clean way, the objective way. That's why objective reality is the only way to go with this. You know, people thinking God, this planet is so cruel. You're gonna see how cruel it is. It's gonna get very cruel. In these days too, there's gonna be a lot of negative shit hitting you. I know for a fact, because now that I'm really narrow path minded, I get negative shit thrown at me all the time. And it's once they recognize you're starting to climb up that frequency ladder, they're going to start clawing at you and trying to bring you down. They're going to, and you have to overcome and defeat it. You cannot give in to, you cannot justify anything. You have to look at it for what it is, or you're going to be pulled down. They really play that game with you where they need you to justify bullshit. This is your last test to stop lying to yourself, stop justifying your evil ways. Start being objective about everything. Don't sugarcoat. Don't exaggerate. Don't do none of that. Call it all how it see. It's a easier path once you do that. But once you taking this resistance path, you know, you're not going to. It's just like you're trying to fly through a, you know, like there's a door closing and you're trying to squeeze through it, but it's too shut. It's too much. It's too closed for you to even get through the door now. Cause you ain't getting through the door. When the door's open for you to be completely objective, you wait, you bullshit. You procrastinate. You're like, you're not calling it for what it is. That door is closing on you. Quite literally too. You know, and I learned that too, that, you know, even when good things is happening to you in life, when your moment comes, you have to recognize it and take that, you know, walk right through that door once it opens. This has a lot to do with everything. With even you manifesting things in your life. Some people, they don't never manifest nothing either, because they're not conscious of these doors opening up. They're not focusing on what they need to be focusing on. They're too busy lying to themselves. They're too busy bullshitting, justifying why they ain't shit. You know, you don't want to become like that. All right. Now you can see what's going on here. Yeah, this is beautiful. But yeah, man, I just wanted to get that little quick message out. You know, gotta keep people up to date with this shit. Once this planet does its thing, it don't matter if you feel like you got a good heart or not. If you are tricked into being a moron, you're going to be wiped away just like everyone else who's a moron. It doesn't matter. All right, so just remember that you will not get a pass. There is no passes. And I know the religious people's teaching you that. Well, that's because they don't want you to find yourself. They don't want you to get right so you could be ready for this upcoming event that you have to be ready for. They need souls down here. They don't understand that they're going to be destroyed. They think they're going to really ride this thing out and overcome it. That's why they manipulated the weather and all that type of shit. They got you guys thinking they're creating these storms. No, they're trying to stop them. These storms are coming back for them. This is the ancestors, the Most High, sending this shit. And they're trying to stop themselves from being destroyed. So they got these weather machines, but it ain't working. That's why the shit is coming regardless. All right? Or they could shift the storm. So where they got their bullshit at, they figured out some ways how to shift it, but it ain't gonna work. This shit is getting out of control. Now, just because they don't believe they could be swept out of here, don't buy into their bullshit. I'm telling you, they're done. They're going to be gone. All right. So you get yourself ready and don't fall into these spells. Don't fall into this victim shit neither, to where you're gonna play woe is me when the time is too late. Don't play that game, because God don't play them games. The Most High, the whole universe will be objective when this happens. There ain't no, oh, but I thought I was doing good. No, you weren't doing good. There's objective reality only. There's no I deserve another chance, or oh, I didn't know better, when you actually knew better, because you did. You know better. You know when you're doing right or wrong, and you know when you making up an excuse for some bullshit you did. Okay? So don't play them games when this time comes, okay? And for everybody that made it this far in the video, let me know you made it this far in the video, and put them 13s in the chat, because in the comment section, because that 13 is rebirth. Okay? It could be death or rebirth. It could be both. Death of your old self, of your demons, destroying them, and rebirthing. Okay? That's when Christ found himself, is rebirth. Okay? So put them 13s up if you made it this far, and man, trust me, everything's going to work out. Do not let these things take you down. Follow that narrow path, okay? Now I got love for y'all. This is crucial. I ain't woke, I'm up. Peace, love, 13. And look at that moon.
We do have vampires around us. Crucial 13, that's what's up. Shout out to you.
I feel like every time Crucial ever talked, it was making mad sense.
Get Crucial. I'm hungry. I need some bacon.
Look at this. Look at it. This is the city I'm in right now.